And I thank you. I thank you and I welcome you to our virtual auditorium for the second presentation in our new Conversations on Art series with our host, Meg Linton, and tonight's guest artist, DJ Hall. So it's been a challenging time for the world and for the Brentwood Art Center as we transitioned our offerings to a virtual format, which has allowed the BAC to continue to fulfill its mission of providing high quality arts educational opportunities to students of all ages. Our success is due to our incredible and generous board of directors, leadership council, donors, staff, faculty, and students who support the BAC through thick and thin. The pandemic has also allowed us to experiment with new technology and to create programs like Conversations on Art. And so I would like to thank our anonymous donor who has made this series possible for the next 12 months. We can only do all that we do because of our generous donors who believe everyone should have access to the arts and to education. Now, our host, Meg Linton, and I met at Otis College of Art and Design while she was the director of exhibitions at the Ben Maltz Gallery, and I was the dean of continuing education. We collaborated on many public programs, and I am thrilled that we are able to bring her love and respect for artists to the BAC. She has been visiting artists' studios for over 20 years in her various roles as director and curator of contemporary art spaces in the Central and Southern California region. Currently, Meg is working on an exhibition about the life and work of artist Keith Julius Puccinelli. She's writing a novel and also, of course, conversing with DJ Hall tonight for the BAC. Welcome, Meg.
Thank you, Amy. I want to welcome everyone to this virtual studio visit / conversation / presentation with DJ Hall this evening. I want to give a shout out to the Brentwood Art Center and thank Amy Gantman and our anonymous donor for making this series possible. Also, a shout out to Hannah, who's our behind the scenes tech guru, who's keeping this virtual auditorium open for us this evening. A little housekeeping. We are recording this event. If you have questions, please type them into the chat box. I will either work them into the conversation as we go along, or we'll answer them at the end during the open Q&A session. So I'd like to introduce DJ. She is a native Angelino with a fabulous studio in Venice Beach, where a couple of weeks ago we met to talk about art, dogs, the state of the world, and what's next. If you don't know this already, in a few moments you will see why DJ is an internationally recognized artist known for her use of color and light. Her signature paintings emphasize an idyllic lifestyle synonymous with Southern California, inspired by her earliest poolside memories. Her detailed work draws upon the foundations of photorealism, and her compositions are highly contrived scenarios. Tonight, we will discuss how she builds her images and infuses them with a kind of magic realism. In recent years, DJ has developed a looser body of work focused on plein air painting, documenting her experiences through a series of intimate landscapes in gouache. She's also found a way to time travel and collaborate with painters from the annals of art history, and we'll see examples from a body of work called Max the Project. To find out more about DJ, I've put a few links into the chat box so you can check out those later to find out all the museum collections her work is held in and her exhibitions and so forth over the years. So after all that, I want to welcome DJ to our conversation. I think DJ's on mute. Oh. Hannah, can you mute DJ?
I'm pushing to unmute.
And there. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Sorry about that. That was the
No
first
worries.
mistake. Let's hope there are no more. And I want to say, please, I have to mention cats. Also, I love
Yes.
Jackie Glofsman's cat. And thank you so much, Meg, for your introduction, and Amy also. We go back a long way together, and I'm happy to share my work with you tonight, that I've done through my career, and also some of the things I'm doing nowadays, which I am departing somewhat from what I'm specifically known for.
Yes. So we're going to kind of begin with an overview and just start the conversation by looking at some images. If my computer will cooperate. There we go. So this is a couple pictures of DJ's studio. You took these for us just recently, right?
I did. I'm not seeing them. Is everybody else?
Is everyone seeing the screen?
Yes.
Huh.
I can see it.
And I see the screen, but I don't see the slideshow. Maybe I can't. Huh. I mean, I saw it earlier.
Yeah, you should be able to because I'm sharing screen with everyone.
Yeah. That's hard to know what's happened. Maybe I'll minimize this. I think that's all. No, that didn't help. I don't know.
Okay,
I really
everyone,
don't know, Meg.
just give us a sec and I'm going to
All
try
right.
and reshare
Okay.
the presentation.
Yeah, it was up the whole time, just before we started the meeting. The
Yeah.
yellow thing with me at the easel painting.
Yeah. Can you see it now? Is
No.
everyone seeing it? Okay.
All right, well then I'll just have to play along. But it would be great if she could get that fixed for me. I mean, if she can tell me why I'm not seeing that swap shared screen. I don't know that you want me to, maybe I need to not be the host right now, or let me try to swap the shared screen.
Yeah, Hannah,
no. Oh, there it is. Okay, so there it is.
Okay,
I'm not
great.
there now, but there's
Yay.
okay.
So you can see it. So these
I
are
can see
pictures.
it.
Yep, these are pictures of our recent visit.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So you can kind of see what DJ's got on the wall and the easels and the equipment. And if we were able to do this in person, we'd all be standing around her studio.
So should I comment? I'd
Yeah.
like to comment. So my early work was really going to touristy places and photographing people kind of on the sly, although I would get them to pose for me. And I was known for my color pencil drawings, which this is. This is Hawaiian Gothic. And we can go on to the next.
Okay.
These are all what you're looking at. The one in the top left corner, Birds of a Feather, colored pencil, Palm Springs. And then I started going elsewhere to other resorts. And it was always a nerve-wracking experience for me because I really wanted to be part of the vacation experience, but it was hard to wrestle that relaxation with when I saw the perfect people walk by or I passed them and then I had to grab my camera and photograph them.
All right. So DJ, first, I had a little question because in doing some reading about you, it sounded like you were, and when you were in school at USC, you were doing more abstract work. And then how did you kind of move to the figure? Is that?
Well, the figure was always what I'd done since I was a little girl. And the only time I got to do figurative work at SC was in my life drawing class. And in my senior year at SC, I just got sick and tired of doing the paintings. They were very pretty, but they weren't me. And I started doing paintings from my photography on the sly, and then I brought them to school eventually. And through one of the instructors who saw the work, he said, "Oh, a photorealist." And I said, "I don't know what that is. I'm just doing what I want to do."
That's great.
So I'm self-taught in terms of being an oil painter. and self-taught in terms of painting the figure.
That's great. And how did you start while you were just on vacation? As you were saying, you just started taking photographs of people and then they kind of worked their way into your paintings?
Well, if we can, I'm going to go into the next slide. I don't see anybody. I don't know if you are seeing me or not. We're just seeing the show. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I planned my first trip to Palm Springs in 1974. And I went there not really knowing what was going to happen. And I really can't remember what prompted me to do that, except that I knew it'd be sunshiny and that there would be people out milling about the pools. At that point, I was not totally aware of my attraction to pools. That came maybe about 5 years into my career. And I just intuitively, there were people that I saw that I wanted to use as paintings. And a lot of them shared some sort of characteristics were with my family, grandmothers, aunts, my mother's friends. And so in a way, I was kind of extending my family through the work I was doing. The piece you were just looking at, that was one of the model with the striped towel was basically someone who's been in my work throughout my career. Unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago, but she was always on for me. If I said, let's go to Jamaica, which we did, she was on and she'd be up at 7 a.m. ready for a shoot, even though we'd been partying late into the night. And this painting, like most of my paintings, starting in the mid to late 80s, are very much made up from a whole bunch of different images that I may have taken, or nowadays even I pull off backgrounds or pieces of backgrounds from the internet and build the image and or the composition.
So your work is, you've traveled all over taking photographs and
Resorts.
resorts.
I wish it were all over. No, I mean, not that much. But Palm Springs until I was no longer welcomed at the pools. And then Hawaii, because my husband was there in business, eventually several places in Mexico. And then by the early 80s, I started getting people to sit for me here in LA. So I didn't have to go through the nerve-wracking thing of vacations. Was the weather going to cooperate? Were there going to be the right people, etc.
Mm-hmm.
This is Glee, and this is really kind of typical what I was doing in the late 80s, early 90s, where I was posing the models in my front yard. The background is completely made up, and the great thing when I was shooting this, there was a moment where I was just running the camera, and the girl in the middle who's laughing, that was not a moment where I was posing them or let's say directing them. And then I worked to take another photograph, worked with another one of the photographs I took to combine this as if it were 4 people sitting there. And all of these models came into my life because they were neighbors and I would see them or someone, actually all three of those women were neighbors at some time in the Venice canals.
So you find someone you find interesting and then invite them to be a model?
Yeah, even when they're running away from me, I try to explain to them what I'm about to do. And it was kind of cool that the woman in the middle in the red dress, in the red dress, actually when I started talking about my work, it's just, wait, are you DJ Hall? And I was happy to say, yes, I am. And she said, of course I would pose for you.
Oh, that's a
lot of my
wonderful
work.
moment.
Yeah.
That had to feel really good.
Yeah, it was great.
Someone's asked what the size of this painting is.
This one was not as large as the others because it was very rectilinear. So my memory would say maybe 20 by 40, but I don't know offhand.
Do you have kind of an average size that you were working in with this body of work?
Well, let's see, most of my work was always rectilinear and horizontal, and usually the paintings were somewhere around 4 feet by 6 feet, 5 by 8 feet. and even larger in some cases, like really large, like one was 6 by 9 feet, one was 3 by 10 feet or something. And then I started working with smaller work in the 90s because I'd had an illness that made it not possible for me to work for some time. And so I resumed working by working in very small formats.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of your, well, here, let's finish talking about that. So a lot of your pictures depict like women having a really good time by the pool. Did you have any pushback or anything about that? I mean, because it seems like there's always some kind of issue with showing women having a really good time.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of things that I encountered. First of all, the big question I always got is, why do you only paint women? Well, I could turn around and say, why do male artists only paint women or paint men? So that was always something that made me pretty aggravated when I got that question over and over. And then, of course, pushback from people who think it's socially incorrect. Well, I'm not making a political statement. I'm making something that comes out of my heart and out of my own emotional background, which the very few times in my childhood that I was actually allowed to be childlike was at my grandmother's swimming pool. And so that's those fond memories. And I said earlier about my attraction to pools. It was really connecting again with something that gave me pure joy in my childhood.
Mhm.
And I'm sure nowadays, even more so, people probably have a problem with happy blonde ladies. But the fact is, people who really understand my work, usually people who are arts professionals or women who understand certain things, know that there's really a lot of sadness and possibly anger in my women. And when I've always had people directed them to have extreme smiles. The fact is, women in our society smile a lot when they're angry. So it's something for you to watch if you see people being interviewed or on the news or whatever.
That's a really interesting observation.
I mean, it's a proven fact.
Yep.
Oh, and the bright color. The funny thing about that, well, I was self-taught with painting, and I guess I was always attracted to bright color when I started working. And then I heard many years later, a very well-known then radio doctor say that in mental institutions, when people are in there having art therapy, that the most mentally the people in the worst shape use the brightest colors. So color is a way of medicating. I mean, I will admit it. There's a lot of sorrow in my childhood and adolescence, and bright color certainly has made me happier.
Wow.
This is fun. This is one of my shoots, and I ended up doing several wonderful paintings from this shoot. We were at the man with the trunks. We were at his place in a very fancy gated community in Palm Desert. And that day it was 111 with 99% humidity. And a few hours after that shoot, it broke into one of the biggest storms they had in a while. So it was a brutal shoot. Oh, and I had a back brace on too, because I was in a lot of pain, but I'm there shooting and directing.
Wow.
And that's one of the paintings. That's Giggle. And I fell in love with that image. Again, it was kind of an off moment when the woman in yellow, Lee, was just giggling. And that was an outtake. And Pamela in orange was posing. And so I took those two different images and put them together. And then I had to really recreate the background. It was like what was out there, but I had to do a lot to make it work compositionally. And because I had done something stupid with the table setup, I had to make up the whole table. And so I gave myself a lot of extra work, even though when I do my photo shoots, I try to get as much thought out as ahead of time, but it's a lot of things that I'm juggling, including the biggest part, directing and getting my models to be exuberant. I have to tell jokes and things. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to get them to emote.
Yes.
the feeling that you're after. So
Mhm.
that can be difficult,
Oh, it has been
especially if
sometimes.
they're not all professional models. So
Oh, none of them are. And
yeah.
sometimes there have been clashes of egos. And one time I ended up having a severe headache after a photo shoot with two women who were competing and had was not a good thing. And I went to bed at 5:30 after that shoot with
Oh
a
my
roaring headache. So yeah, I'm wearing a lot of hats when I'm creating my work. And what we see right now is just notes, preliminary notes before a photo shoot. These are notes after I've met with the models and I've selected the clothing and clothing changes for the shoot. And I've been making at that point little thumbnails of different positions that we're going to shoot, different prop setups. And usually the day before the shoot, I come in and do these notes, which is that you see there, noting the time of day and the angle of the light. This is a shoot that I started in the early afternoon and we went into the night. We went through about 4 different scenarios that day.
So your relationship to photography, have you ever just shown the photographs? Or are
No,
these are
no.
really just your
Well,
tools?
I mean, it'd be so wonderful. I mean, I think, I see a lot of people showing photography. It'd take a lot of work out of what I have to do. So, yeah, I have thought about it a few times, but I haven't pursued that.
Yeah, because it's just curious because it's such an elaborate process for you to, I liked how you use construction terms in terms of how you build your compositions. And I just keep thinking of, how you put all the pieces together as kind of like making a building.
Oh, exactly. That's the analogy I use.
Yeah.
And here you see where I have one of the shots I was doing that evening. And it was a very wonderful summer evening. My husband's there in the pool. And I had to reshoot eventually that fall. I reshot the fruit still life. Oh, and you also see my storyboard there on the table.
Mhm.
And I reshot the still life in the fall. And as we progress through these, you'll see some more changes I made. Yeah, so there I am in the fall reshooting. My husband's there holding the light over it. And then I realized we needed another compositional element in the background. So I put my legs in a freezing pool, probably in December, and had Toby, my husband, shoot me drinking a margarita to tie in with the margarita glasses on the still life setup. And even the little sketches you see here, I'm starting to develop pretty much what I want, but I know I moved the margarita glasses around, I switched some shadows, and I had not yet figured out the background, which I think we'll see a slide for that in a moment. Yeah, so here I'm trying to decide what's going on behind the fence in the backyard. And I wanted these 2 palm trees, and as extreme as it seems, those 4 little photocopies underneath, I slightly moved the palm trees, 4 different positions. And ultimately, there was the one that says yes, and I settled on it. I just put those up on a wall, and I just walk by them every day for a few weeks, and the one that works hits me. Okay. And there's the final painting. Oh, and this is one of through my last maybe 10 years, I've made a few nods to other artists, including Bonnard, Matisse, and I'm trying to think of someone else, but this was actually, I'd always loved it, an Eric Fischl painting of these people, they're out barbecuing at their picnic table in the backyard, and there's a big fish and someone's holding it or something, but this has, it's kind of a take on the Eric Fischl piece I'm describing. This is a big piece too. It's 7 feet by 4 feet.
My goodness.
Mm-hmm. And that is also that same day photo shoot, smaller piece, and you're seeing a dear friend of mine, Catherine Huff, And Candace Gahn, who's an artist, that's her daughter, Sophia, who's been in a lot of my paintings. And this is the background of a house that I have in Palm Desert. Some rearranging of the elements in the house to make it work with the painting composition that I wanted. This is when I started my autobiographical series, which my artist friends all thought was the best painting I'd ever done. And I have to agree, when I look at these paintings, I have them all because collectors freaked out about them, I guess. This is a very large painting. I think it's like maybe 5 by 6.5 feet. And autobiographical in that I did these works that were from my swimming pool birthday parties as a kid. And this is one of the first birthday parties at my grandparents' backyard in Santa Ana. That little red car was my gift. And those two little girls pushing me, I remember one was named Pammy and the other one was Karen. And then the little girl in the background, I had to make up, and I actually turned her into Jane from Dick and Jane. And then through the LA Public Library, I was able to get some old Dick and Jane readers and copy the text typeface for the text that I have at the bottom of that painting. And the flowers and the roses are all made up of a combination of many pictures of flowers I was taking at that time.
So were you using your own photographs from your
Yes.
childhood for these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they weren't based from memory, and that so you didn't have to do a photo shoot and recreate
Oh,
them.
I actually, for one thing that I don't think we have, I actually did do a photo shoot where we created a little girl on a diving board for me.
Nice.
This is also from the autobiography series. And the thing that amazes me about this painting, I was just looking at it this weekend. I'm there in the powder blue dress and then the little pink top and black pedal pushers. But just by some quirk of the way the paint stayed on the canvas, my eyes in that painting follow you anywhere you walk in the room and look at the painting. This is a combination of two images that I had adored for years. One is Christmas morning at a friend's house, and another is a jet pilot who took us for a flight. My mother was dating him. We found out through a collector of mine that he actually was in line to be one of the first astronauts, but he wasn't married, and that didn't project the right image, so he didn't make it. But I finally, one day, I looked at these two things for years, and one day I drew the slides down, I guess, on a table. I saw them together. I reversed the one of us with the Air Force guy to make it compositionally start working with the other. And then I added the red cowboy hats on me. Those were very popular back then. And I will never know who the little boy is and the Indian stuff, nor the little girl standing in the background at the Marine Air Force Base in Orange County.
Wow.
Yeah, I call this, Securing the Homeland, 1959. And I was really doing this just after all the Homeland stuff was coming out. And it was a really sickening term. I hate Homelands, that name Homeland. It's very Nazi-esque to me. And an interesting story about this painting.
Oh, we lost DJ.
Uh-oh.
Give us a second. I'm going to text her. Thanks for your patience, everybody.
You know what? I'm running down to my studio to get my power cord.
Okay, great. Well,
I
yep.
left it in my
DJ ran out of power. She's going down to her studio to get her power cord, so she'll be back with us in just a minute. So she says she's sorry, and this is what living in the modern age is like. Is Amy out there? Amy, do you want to come on and tell us a little bit about what's going on at the BAC and maybe some classes while we wait for DJ?
Well, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm back. So I'll just say we are in the midst of our fall semester. And although most of our courses have started for this term, we do have a number of courses that are going to be launching during the first week of November. I'll just share that we have abstract painting, we have collage, we have a number of free programs too coming up in as we head towards winter. And one, I think Jackie is here with us tonight, and so there's one having to do with oh, Jackie, now I can't remember. It's the snowshoe hare for kids, right? And then let's see, what else do we have coming up? We have our winter camps will be coming up later at the end of fall as we bridge into winter. We do plan, let's see, there is one more conversation on art with Audrey Chan, which
Hi,
makes me
sorry.
not to
She's back.
worry.
Oh my God, everybody, I'm so sorry. I kept telling myself, now don't forget to get the power cord. So
Yeah.
I literally ran out of power. So
Well, you have also shared with me that you've been so busy, and we just really appreciate you taking the time to be with us tonight. So
great,
not a
thanks.
problem. And thanks, Amy, for that update. We did have a question come in because someone wants to
Yes.
know.
Okay, but can I finish my story? I just have to finish
Yeah.
on this. Okay,
Yeah.
so my thing about Homeland Security is like, to me, was like Nazi propaganda. So we had a very famous German photographer come to my studio one day. He's a friend. And he came in and saw this painting on the easel. And I heard him, I was with his wife in the kitchen. I heard him go, "I hate that painting. I hate it." And so I ran up there and he said, "But I love it." And he totally got the idea of propaganda and happy America and all that. So I needed to say that. Now I'll
Yeah.
answer a question.
Yeah. So we have a question. Who's holding the gun?
That's Marge Forehand. And Marge is now in her mid-90s. She's now in a rest home. She was a dear friend of my mother in Santa Ana. And that is Christmas. It's a toy gun. I did add the Christmas wreath there in the corner so that to try to make a reference that obviously we were all out there with our little Christmas presents.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I forget what wasn't a Red Ryder gun. It was something that was really popular that I know my dad wanted when he was a kid. So
Davy Crockett, maybe?
yeah, maybe.
I think it's the Red Ryder BB gun.
Yeah, he wanted the Red Ryder BB gun.
Okay,
So,
yeah, this was Jeffy and Ricky Forehand. They're not there in the picture. That was obviously their toy gun for Christmas.
yeah.
And this also is from that series. This is a really big painting. In fact, it says 44 inches high by 108 inches. And this is one of my birthday parties. My grandmother, that's her pool, and my grandmother's sitting over with the cake. And then in the picture where I'm blowing out the candles, the amazing thing is whoever took the picture cropped my grandma's hand. So I have used my own hand there for her hand. And for the candles, I actually just took a bunch of pictures of candles lit so I could get the flames to look right. I had a lot of fun with this painting.
And that's a swimming pool on the cake, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
It's
that's
great.
fantastic.
Yeah, it says a lot.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's kind of a little bit of a self-portrait.
Yeah, and this too. And so what's fun, this is also that series. I'm there in the background on the diving board. Then I posed me in a 1950s outfit as if I were my grandmother. And the magazine that I'm holding is actually another image that I did from that series where I'm holding a martini in a background, and it's a nod to Julia Schulman, a famous photograph, which was then done by uh, Brad Pitt and his wife, Angelina Jolie. I did mine before them though, my take on it. So there's a lot going on here. That actual, where we shot me there, we just shot me out in the alley behind our house.
Oh,
Mhm.
very nice.
And this, believe it or not, took me months to make it happen. I did the photo shoot. Actually, this is the day after when you saw Pamela and Lee, the models. This is the remnants of the storm. This is basically graphite. And I had to make all these 3 images line up. And I know that sounds like that, well, that should be easy, but it was really hard because I shot at different eye levels without thinking of. So I had to do a lot where I could have that continuation of the roof line and the pool line and keep it fairly joined from one image to the next. And a lot of my work that I've done in the past when I do triptychs is in a way a cinematic approach where I'm showing the passing of time. So this is literally Lee in the foreground, I'm in the background reading, then I'm walking into the house, and Lee is getting ready to walk out of the rain into the house.
And how big is this?
Being a black and white drawing, I'm gonna have to guess. Well, the whole paper was probably like 20 by 35 or so, but I like to, when I do these triptychs, I like to leave a big white border around them so that you kind of focus in as if you were looking at a strip of film. Same thing. This is the famous Fry House above Palm Springs, and we were lucky enough to visit it one day. And ultimately, had my husband, well, I set the whole shot up, but I had my husband take a picture of me. I go out to thrift stores and buy these clothes. And I created this painting from several shots from the Fry House. And then ultimately, that ball in the pool is from my 8th birthday party. And then the striped little lounge chair, I actually shot on my roof deck here in Venice in the winter and added that in as a compositional element. Oh, and I should say the white border there is, I was doing this thing for a while where I left a white border around the image, and I would have something coming out or entering into the image, like my shoe there.
Yeah, and a little bit of the chair, right? And
Yeah.
yeah. Nice.
Thank you. Actually, yeah, where the chair is, that's just a piece of masking tape on the white border.
Oh,
Just,
okay.
yeah, just sitting on the painting.
Uh-huh.
Not the most professional photography. That's on my easel. So
How
it means
do you organize all your photographs? Do you have them just like because some of this went from where you were dealing with prints to then you're dealing with digital images because you cross over.
Yeah, I have boxes and boxes of slides from well, I went digital in 2005. So boxes and boxes of slides for about 25, 35 years. And I have them organized, labeled and all that stuff.
Yeah. So you can reference them anytime. So
yeah. Oh yeah. And I have records of all of that stuff, including my paintings, all like for every painting I do, whether it's a few inches or it's gigantic, I end up making all these drawings and all the things, working it out. And so each one has a file, and then those files are all filed, and I've indexed it.
Wow.
This is a well-known painting of mine, and the point behind this was I had just been teaching at Otis for a while, and I don't know if you're familiar with the life drawing department, well, life drawing in the foundation department, but it was all about the process, show the process. And so I did this picture of artist Candace Gahn and her daughter Sophia. And then I have me. This is a diptych, and when it's hung, we hang it. So it's like an inch separating the 2 paintings, and that's actually showing me doing a photo shoot. And again, the background, it has some reference to reality, but a lot of it's made up to just get the right sky in there. And then I, again, partway through the painting, I added in those balls into the pool. And this was a wonderful photo shoot. I have this idea, you know, some of my ideas, they just come to me as a word. And the word for this that came to me was whisper. And this was a photo shoot. I went out, I spent a lot of money to get these vintage dresses. And the cigarettes are there because what women did in the 50s. And I did this whole propping and setting up. And my only lighting that night was a light bulb that I had on the ground in front of the women. So they had to hold really still when I was shooting them. And I would say that I did take a lot of these photographs and I made these decals, this old process back in the day, and made this beautiful piece of about 12 of the shots that I shot through, because it was like it should have been a magazine image, these shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's when I'm working on it. Same stuff. You see the ideas, you see the composition as I'm developing it. I changed the pool. It's actually Lucy Ball and Desi Arnaz's swimming pool from the desert. And then I added in the background of the house. I made up some furniture. I did a lot. And then I had to reshoot the one hand that was a blur in the photograph, and I got my neighbor, that's down at the very bottom there in the lower right hand corner, is my neighbor's hand holding a martini glass. And yeah, so this is, this is Secrets. Yeah, okay, and I have another one that says I've got a secret. This is Secrets, and I developed the painting, and I then shot myself about 4 months later. I'm in the living room in another vintage dress, and the phone that I have is actually an eggplant in my hand. And then I made up the room. This is more recent. Well, yeah, this is 2016. This is a smaller painting, and this is obviously a big nod to Palm Springs modernism. And I was lucky enough, the house that my husband and I bought in Palm Desert, the remnants of everything were left there. So we inherited those wonderful glasses in the foreground. And I went through that woman's wardrobe, and she was the first time I'd seen these wardrobes where you have these racks that pull down and pull down. She had hundreds of clothes. And the Pucci dress is how I came up with the name Pucci, or the skirt. And that's a large painting of the two of us that day. And again, that house is, it's like the house, but it really architecturally could not have such a huge span. I intentionally lengthened that span for compositional purposes. These are some of the triptychs that I did a few years ago, where I'm kind of playing with the idea in the upper one of the same shape. So you see that palm tree expanding up, and the splash, that's my husband, because I'd watch him in the pool, and I thought the splash would be a wonderful thing. And the poppies, oh God, I spent hours taking photographs of poppies and then combining all of them to make that shape. And below is at a well-known resort in Palm Desert, me in the pool, and then a series of roses I was photographing in my neighborhood one winter. This is a great painting. I think Craig Krull is one of the guests, but these people who own another, excuse me, very large piece of mine came to him, and they said they wanted to commission me to do their pool. So I went up there literally on the last day of summer, which is to me getting really close to not having the light that I wanted. And I took thousands of pictures of their pool from every angle. And during the shoot, the fellow came out and he said, DJ, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We want people in the pool. We just want the people not to be us, but your people in our pool. So I'm always like, I can't stand doing last minute planning. And it was just on a fluke that I called these two different women and said, can you come and pose for me today? Let me run over to your house and pick your clothing. One woman, the blonde, had just put her magazine to bed the night before, and the other one was a neighbor of mine, and I've actually used her a lot in the last few years. So this is called Glamorous, and there's a very funny story behind it, but we don't have time for it. It's a big painting too. It's like probably 7 feet by 4.5 feet.
Yeah. Well, it's a real testament to you that your friends will drop what they're doing to come and help.
I know.
Dedication to your art is wonderful.
It was amazing. I mean, like I said, I couldn't stand being a last minute person like that. This, again, in my backyard in Palm Desert, it's on the easel. That's why you see that wooden board. So it's still not coming into the finish. And again, there's a lot of tricks here that you wouldn't pick up on. The scale of the two women, the way I've compressed them, really can't physically happen, but compositionally, I had to push them together and then make up the background. And from that painting, you can see I did a smaller painting of them, and also you see them in the big painting. What I did was faster paintings with the more realistic image, and then I played with pixelation. And then when I was at Otis, when I was teaching color theory, which I'd never had, I became fascinated with the exercises I was having my students do. I was really envious of them. So I decided I was going to do it too. So I won't go into color theory, but you're taking 4 colors, and I did 4 separate tetrads for each painting. And when you mix those colors with black and with white and with each other, you can create from 4 colors all of the colors you see there. So I was combining, I love pixelation, and this is pre someone else doing it. And then the color theory thing. Actually did those in gouache first, the color theory things, and then painted them much larger in oil on those triptychs. And then I also had to start teaching charcoal at LMU, and I thought I hated charcoal. Now I love it. So that's actually me and one of my cats, a charcoal drawing on the floor.
Well, yeah, and I was going to ask you because our first guest was Joan Takayama Ogawa, who's a teacher as well, and the teaching keeps your processes moving forward too, as you have a back and forth exchange with the students. So it's really wonderful that you're able to be in the classroom as well.
Well, I've learned, as I said to someone recently, I learned nothing at USC basically. So my whole education has been from teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great. This is the Max project. Quick story. I was approached by a gallery person, Christian Homan, in Palm Desert, and he wanted, well, I won't go into the story, but I had to come up with something that would contemporize Max Pechstein, who painted his paintings in the early 1900s. And I ended up going overboard. He just wanted like maybe one little thing. I took a bunch of different paintings that I liked of his, and I recreated them with what you see. And all the recreations I did before the final photograph, it was all done online, where I contacted my models online. I had them send me, I told them what I needed for clothing. I had them send me pictures online. So I had the whole thing, the photo shoots designed before we were ever together. And it was, as I told you, Meg, it became very clear to me and others around me that I was absolutely channeling Max Pechstein, because solutions to backgrounds came to me out of nowhere. That was part of my experience.
Yeah, it seems like it was very energizing. Yeah.
Yeah, and energized, like I did it all in 9 weeks, which is insane. And so that's the painting. That was a very famous painting that this art dealer was going to sell, but it being at a contemporary art fair, they had to contemporize it. This is one of my LMU students just sitting in the art studio at school. And I had no idea what to do about the background. I know I wanted yellow and green. I didn't know anything. And one day this voice said to me, McDonald's. And I'm thinking, but no, McDonald's is red and white. It's red and white. The voice said, no, you got to go look. Go Google it. So I did. They do yellow and red and green.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. So that's a combination of different what do you call them, malls, indoor malls with McDonald's. And I had no idea until someone pointed out to me, the arches is the arch
Yep.
the arch of the painting, and the letter M for Max. I mean, it's just bizarre.
It worked out perfect.
Yeah. And this is some of what I was doing. I actually have a very thick notebook because I was like literally every day having to write out all these plans, and I cross them out as I go, but all these things I have to do to make all of this work. But you can see some of the photographs I took, and each one is referencing off Max of one of his paintings. Well, this one, for example, pretty amazing. So I shot the young woman, my model, just in an alley here in Venice. And I started the background because I wanted to create the same shapes as his, and it was not working. And then the voice said, we'll just go over to the Venice Pavilion. You'll find it right there. And that's it. And then I created those pathways of cement and picked off all these little skateboarders from the internet to go along with those little figures in Max's painting.
Max was guiding you.
He was guiding me. And this is really crazy. So I love this painting. So, okay, surfer girl. Oh no, I don't know. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about the landscape, but this voice said surfer. I'm going, okay. So and that voice says German surfers. And I'm going, no, there's no one surfs in Germany. So I looked it up, and sure enough, I forget her name. I can't say it, Yanni Hohenstein or whatever. She's a famous German surfer. And I put on that hat. The hat is a Hurley hat, like it's a lot of surfer clothing. And I put on a sweatshirt on her, and I made her skin green, and I created those goggles for her. And then that background for her is from one of his landscape paintings.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you. And this one, I told you, Meg, that's another one of my neighbors sitting in my bedroom posing. And I had everything set up, and I had built the image with in the background, there's like a cabinet with stereos and stuff. And I had no idea, I was actually going to do a David Park painting for the background. And then the voice said The Handmaid's Tale. And I said, but I've never seen The Handmaid's Tale. So the voice said, well, go Google it. So I did. And I was trying to keep that red and black like the background, and there it is. And this was also right during the Trump, the Holber, what was his name? The guy that became a Supreme Court justice. So I have some things about him.
Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes. So on that, if you were to see it in person, it says Brat Kavanaugh on the newspaper. And then that's obviously, I think everybody can see that's Trump.
Yep.
And there's some more of the work as you see it. I did these little gouache paintings. Strangely enough, going through his work online, I found that he did canals, just like I've been painting my own canals in gouache for many years. And I told Meg also the story where the two girls have mirrors up and a cell phone, and then there's Max's painting on the left. I had come to the end of my rope. I had the canvas ready to go, and it was a Friday, and I just said, I cannot go on. And literally, I was on the floor on the verge of crying, and I just said, I'm done. And on Monday morning, the voice said, you're not done. Just do a little drawing. And I did.
That's great.
So Max on the left, me on the right. It's so weird. And that was one of his wood blocks. So this, I had another neighborhood young woman pose. And then for the cats, I used pictures from my kitties I no longer have. Everybody made it to 18 and a half and 20, but the last one was in 2017. So I put the two cats there. And this, Craig hasn't seen this, if Craig's still there. So this is a Matisse painting, so everybody take a look at it. And a few years ago, with that painting in mind, I shot my French neighbor and her French sister who was visiting. And this is a painting I just finished. So I'm now doing my reference to Matisse.
It's wonderful that you're carrying this on.
Well, I've just realized I have so much knowledge of art history that I don't know why, because I didn't think I paid that much attention. But yeah, it's all really been hitting me the last few years. And we're looking at something you can look at very soon. It's actually open already. The California Heritage Museum in Santa Monica, really Ocean Park. There's an opening of some of my small landscapes. A lot of those that you see on that wall would be watercolor. And this is a project I did along with Craig Krull and the Bel Air Bay Club, where I went for 2 weeks and painted every day, the ones on the left. And then the ones on the right are a combination of teeny watercolors and teeny gouaches, some of which I do when I'm out hiking.
And when you say teeny, these are like postcard size, right?
Oh, they're even smaller. You can see my handwriting because it's a diary.
Yeah.
So I write
There we
you
go.
can see like that there. The writing, it really takes me back to that moment more than a painting ever could.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like the little images, I think are like 2.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. And we're looking mainly at gouache. And that's, I'm pointing at the color pencil drawing. Then I did, the nighttime thing is just color pencil.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
Thank you.
And you have a lot of those little books.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I have, we did an edition of 300 and I own about 9 now.
Oh, wow.
That's it. So then in France in 2017, I did 5 12-inch square paintings from my visit to France. So these are some of them. And then actually the one in the upper one, the interior is of Versailles from a 2009 trip I took with the Otis annual Paris trip. And we were all walking around Versailles and I just happened to look into this room. I kind of pushed the door and I was amazed by the feeling I felt in that room. I felt a lot of loneliness and grief in that room. And I came along and added that beam of light and a window. And then I actually made a fan and photographed it. I made a fan and I photographed it and tried it in many positions to suggest that someone had run through there and run into that dark area beyond.
Hmm.
And then the one I love, this is very Matisse, but it's just a wonderful place we happen to stay at in the south of France.
I'm going to move a
these-
little quickly because we're
Okay, okay.
kind of running out of time.
Okay,
But
so
if
I've taken
people are
on-
enjoying this, we're just going to keep going.
Okay, this is soft pastel, which I just started doing last year, and I've fallen in love with it. And this is my mask project. Actually, Craig Krull is down on the bottom. My husband's up in the top left, and Don McCarty, you can see. And even Christopher Isherwood is behind the masked Don McCarty. Oh, actually behind both of them.
And obviously, this is your COVID project.
This is my COVID project. And then it started with me just painting myself there in that top middle, just sitting in front of a mirror. And then I photographed myself with the mask. And then for each one of the women, I had them do their favorite flower. I would find the flowers online and the vases and create these still lifes. Molly Barnes on the bottom. Astrid Preston on the top. Jessie Homer French on the bottom. And then Lisa Austin, and that you'll see with these two women, the completed portraits. And I hated the still lifes I came up with for each one of them. So I'm right now in the process of doing images like those that you see. So it's just fields of poppies, which were Catherine's favorite flower, and Lisa's favorite flower is tulips. So they're on my easel right now. More gouache. Oh, these actually, now you're seeing where I've taken my little gouache paintings and I'm then doing pastels from the little gouache paintings. So the pastels are on the right. Again, on the left, well, on the top left is the gouache, below it is the pastel, top right, gouache, bottom right, pastel. And same thing, you're seeing a combination of things here where I came up with 2 pastels that are based on what you're seeing from the gouache books. Same thing. The two pieces on the top left and middle left are the pastels, and then the initial images from my little gouache books.
These are all fantastic. So I wanted to open it up to questions, if anybody has any questions, because we're kind of at the end of the presentation. Oh, I know I was going to ask you a question because I was reading about your Palm Springs retrospective that you had in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
How was that for you? What was it like seeing all of your work kind of laid out so you could see it in kind of a linear progression?
Well, I had been to that once before at Josine's place, I forget, up there in Barnstall.
Yeah.
I had that one whole wing, and I was in my late 30s, and it was very shocking for me because I realized I'd been trying to make everything good in my childhood. And so I kind of had a breakdown after that. This time, I don't want to sound smug or whatever, but first of all, I've been doing this long enough, and I've been showing long enough that it was just kind of, sadly, it's just, well, it's business as usual. And that the night of the opening at the Palm Springs Art Museum, where I had a whole wing, I was just out in front the entire time signing the catalogs. So I didn't even get to come in and see the show like anybody. And I'd seen the show already, I guess, maybe a few days before. So at that point, I hate to sound, like that, but it didn't hit me the same way. Other than, I have to say, looking at all the stuff when I was putting this together, it's like I have done a ton of stuff. And you said, that I've been prolific. I'm not prolific at all because my work takes so long. I've just worked basically 7 days a week for at least the first 30 years of my career.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're very thrilled to have your artwork in the world.
Thank
And
you.
you've got a show up at the California Heritage Museum that just opened.
Yeah.
Or it's just opening on the 22nd.
Yeah, this Friday night.
Yeah.
And so you can see a lot of my little plein air pieces, and that's about it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I think we kind of really covered a lot. And I want to thank you, DJ, for being with us. And I also want to, I also shared the link for the Heritage Museum show in the chat features, so you can find out more information about that there. And then our next talk is with Audrey Chan on November 15th, and really looking forward to talking with her about all of her work that she's been doing with the ACLU and other nonprofit partners. So thank you to the Brentwood Art Center. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Hannah. And we all hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.